Hey, it's Kyle Meredith, host of the Kyle Meredith With podcast, presented by WFPK at WFPK.org and the Consequence Podcast Network. It's a series that puts the spotlight on iconic musicians and actors, inviting them to drop by and talk about their latest projects, whether it's albums, TV shows, films, or beyond.
I'm going to say something I don't want to say. Here it goes. Without Spinal Tap, there is no Tenacious D.
Whoa! Man! We get great stories and the biggest scoops from people like Garbage's Shirley Manson, the 1975's Matty Healy, Jack Black and Kyle Gass of Tenacious D, Maya Hawke, Kiefer Sutherland, and everyone in between. New episodes arrive every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so it's a great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover some new ones. You can find Kyle Meredith With on the Consequence Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcasts.
In 2022, Boysetsfire vocalist Nathan Gray recorded the album Rebel Songs under the moniker Nathan Gray and the Iron Roses. It was basically a Nathan Gray solo record, but sometime after it was recorded and before it got released, Nathan was questioning whether this project should remain a solo outfit. And like that, the Iron Roses, not Nathan Gray and the Iron Roses, but the Iron Roses was born, a six-piece group where every member is equal, including Nathan. The sound is much different than their post-hardcore group Boysetsfire or the Americana leanings of their solo records. It's joyful protest music that incorporates quite a bit of ska and reggae. And it's not a genre Nathan has played with much at all before this, but it's one they feel super comfortable in expressing where they're at in life right now. The Iron Roses released their debut self-titled record on October 20th, 2023, and they're set to tour a bunch in 2024.
I had been introduced to the Iron Roses in kind of a interesting way.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. My friends Vantana Rowe posted a video of theirs. And I don't know about you, but when I flip through Instagram stories, I have the sound off.
Yeah, same.
So I just saw these people in like kind of goth outfits in like an all white room. And it didn't look like Vantana Rowe's aesthetic. So I messaged them and said, "What the shit is this?" And then they were like, "Oh, I thought we supported ska." And I was like, "Wait, this is ska? I didn't have the sound on." And I'm like, "Holy shit, it is ska." And and I was like so embarrassed. And I was like, "Damn, this is actually good. I'm going to go flip myself off in the mirror." So much like Steve Choi has talked about in the past, I'm trying to be a reformed hater.
Yeah, yeah.
And own up to my mistakes.
And the band in question you're talking about is Iron Roses.
Yes.
So Vantana Rowe was trying to get your approval as their ska daddy.
Yeah.
And posting about ska, and you just shit all over them.
I shamed them into initially deleting the post.
Well, the story has a happy ending because now we're talking to Iron Roses.
Yeah.
I think we should just start off with the big question.
Oh, God. What's that?
The big question is, tell us about the journey that led to you going ska.
That's actually a good question. Because it wasn't like bringing in like ska and reggae elements into what we do was a weird thing that came up. I mean, like, obviously I've been doing music for like 30 years and I've never really dabbled. It was probably not until that Rebel Songs, the Nathan Gray album, the solo album, where I started messing with those things and like ska and reggae elements. And it pulled over into this when we decided, okay, it's going to be the Iron Roses. We're going to put out an Iron Roses album as a band. Those elements just followed and they became very natural in what we were doing, that we can't really separate from it anymore. We're stuck. We're here.
Yeah. What was your connection to ska back in the day? Like, did you listen to ska?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I probably, as far as ska and reggae are concerned, number one was English beat was a huge one. I probably got into English beat right around the same time I was into The Clash and any kind of punk music. And at that same time, I was listening to a lot of Black Uhuru, which is more like, I guess, like dub reggae stuff.
Dubstep reggae.
No. But
just to be clear, Nathan doesn't mean dubstep, right?
no, I do not. Please, no. But Black Uhuru and English Beat and Burning Spear and Bob Marley and things like that played into, and even some of the old like Trojan skinhead reggae stuff. Really, it was part of my collection within the punk. Mm-hmm. And I think it was sort of like when the Clash were incorporating all these different elements, it made so much sense why all of it spoke to me. You know, why the Specials spoke to me as much as the Ramones, you know? And so I guess that's just been something I've carried with me for a long time, but never really got to work through.
Yeah.
And now with this band, we're doing it. Because fuck, why not? You know?
Hell yeah. Becky, what about you? Did you have a connection to ska?
So I would say that this is my introduction to ska, being in a band that is playing it. I always have to tell people, like, I don't come from a background that is like, you know, as a performer that's punk driven or anything like that. Like, I am the choir kid, the kid who did like all the musicals growing up. Like, you know, I did some bands in my early 20s, but they were just very rock driven. So I feel like the adorable oddball out in my band because such a different place.
You're
but
the theater nerd.
Yeah, I am the theater nerd. But it's so funny because when Nathan was talking about bringing in ska into what we're doing with the Iron Roses, I almost started laughing because I remembered that we had a guitarist that we were kind of trying out as a permanent member, and they were so very not into the
they
ska
hated
thing.
it.
Right? And they, like, I was like, oh, this is definitely not going to work.
I would bring in songs and you could just see his face drop. There's like an like, oh fuck. I was like, well, you're not going to work out, are you?
Becky, what musicals were you into as a youth?
Oh God, like anything that I could get my hands on, like you know, I'm talking like all of the old shit, like Godspell. Like a senior year, I did Godspell, but also like I was a big Andrew Lloyd Webber nerd, but also like anything that kind of was on and off Broadway in the 90s at all. Like I can't tell you how many times I've seen okay, I can tell you. I've seen Rent 6 times in 6 different cities. And I'm not ashamed of that. It's fucking cool. Okay.
Yes, it is.
I was an extra in the movie version of Rent.
What?
Really? I didn't even know this.
You didn't know that? You can't see me at all, but I was just there for it.
What scene were you in?
So the guy who's kind of a rocker.
Yeah.
So there's like a whole flashback scene where his band's like playing a show and he like looks across the crowd and like meets the girl. So I was in the crowd, and half of my band, the bass player in my band now, Barry, is on stage playing bass in his band.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's fucking rad.
Not to side tangent too much, but how did this happen? I didn't know this story.
So, yeah, there was a show at Blake's on Telegraph, and this casting agent was there, and they just told all the bands like, hey, come to this audition. And so we went to this audition, and we had to learn how to play New Sensation by NXS and Rebel Yell by Billy Idol. So, and then we get to this warehouse, and the same time they're trying all of us out, they're also auditioning all the drag queens. So they're all there too. Like all like, and they're all like 8 feet tall on the other side of the room. And so all these like dirty punk kids like load in, and the actor comes over to us and he goes, hey, so just so you know, like the song that you're going to be playing is not going to be the song that like they're going to hear. So like, it doesn't really matter how well you play. It matters what you look like standing behind me. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm automatically out because I'm like 1.5 feet taller than you.
So they're like, great audition. You can be guy in crowd that no one can see.
Yeah. So the rest of us, they were like, well, you can come make $80 and stand in the crowd. And so I ate like my weight in craft services and ate myself sick on shrimp. Like, you shouldn't eat the shrimp at craft services, I found out.
No, I can imagine. That shit's been sitting there for a hot minute.
Oh yeah, it was bad. The only other thing I remember about that is there was this like real cool like kind of electro clash band called So Many White Tigers from San Francisco, and their singer was there as one of the audience members too, and she just looked deranged. She was wearing this one of those giant like white wigs that like royalty would wear back in the day.
Oh, new idea.
Awesome. Okay, don't go there.
Nathan, what about you? Did you have any connection to musicals?
Yes, and that's what was so awesome. That like when Becky and I started working together, like that was when I was a kid. My parents had folk albums like Peter, Paul and Mary and Bob Dylan, and then they had musicals. And one of the biggest ones for me, besides Les Mis, was Man of La Mancha with Peter O'Toole. And I still rip that shit off. Like I just
the queen you are.
Yes. And so it was cool, like that connected, and you can actually, funny story, you can hear that theater nerdness in a specific part of this album. And it's in Rebel Soul Sound at the end when we do that sort of round chorus where Becky's singing her own part, like, and that was the theater nerd coming out. It's so good.
I tucked it in there.
Kicking out, keep them running. Yeah.
Well, just the way you do vocals too, I think it's reminiscent of theater because doing these co-lead vocals with like interesting harmonies at the same time.
Yeah, and that definitely played into that, like, and still does.
Yeah.
And
we'll continue to even more ridiculous with it in the next album. Now that we know people like are into it.
Yeah.
So back in the day with Boysetsfire, did you ever play with ska bands?
Yes. And here's the funny thing, and I brought this up to somebody the other day, was I had always, so obviously, like I said, like the Specials, English Beat, like all these old like Trojan reggae skinhead bands from England, like I was all into that kind of stuff. And then when I, around in the 90s, started hearing some ska bands that we ended up playing with, I hated it. Mostly because it had such a weird frat boy vibe. And like some of the bands, I won't name names or anything like that, but there was just like this, like, ugh, I don't know if I connect with this anymore. And it wasn't until more recently seeing like the new wave of ska going on, this very progressive, like culturally diverse, like progressive, like scene now that really lit me back up again for it. Because back at that time, like, it was just like, I don't know. They all look like frat boys to me. And not only that, but I guess also when you're playing festivals and you get woken up at 8 a.m. to people testing out their fucking trumpets. like, okay, all right, I'm good. Like, I don't want any of this,
It's funny that it was like a culture driven thing for you, because I feel like the ska kids are like the ones that have opened their arms to us the most right now.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like at that time, there were a few bands that we'd play with on festivals, but it just didn't seem like there was much depth. And I felt like I got into ska and reggae because it, like punk, had a message and something to say. And there was a political and social aspect to it. And these bands were just like, woo, party! And it was like, I don't connect with that. I don't care about the party. I mean, it's fun, but I want to celebrate about something that means something, not just woo, drinking and girls. I don't care. Like,
okay, what about the new bands? You said that you've been interested in the new bands. Do you want to name some names in that department?
Oh, yeah, of course. Like We Are the Union and Catbite and Kill Lincoln is a great one. Oh, that band, fucking hell.
Their live show is ridiculous.
I won't I won't blow you up on that one. This is a little band called Omnigon. I don't know.
Yeah, they're all right.
Which, honestly, real quick to blow you up here, I thought that was awesome because hearing you guys, because it was like this sort of metal tinged thing that I had never heard with ska. And it just wasn't something that I had heard before. Maybe there are other bands that did it, but I was like, whoa, that's awesome. All right. Like, but anyway, that whole scene and everything and these newer bands where I see myself more within that community than I did with those bands back in the 90s that just seemed like they wanted to get drunk and party, you know? And maybe these bands want to do that too, but there's more to it than that, you know? Like, it's just how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say that the newer bands, definitely there's a return to there being a message. And
yeah.
And I haven't noticed anybody partying that hard either.
Yeah. And I can't. I'm too, grandma's not. I just like,
we've been there, done that.
Yeah. I'm all through my partying stage. And not only that, but I found a time where if I am out on the road partying, I'm not putting 100% into what I'm supposed to be doing.
Sure.
And that's ripping people off.
Yeah. And
it's not giving respect to our audience. So when we're on stage, it's 150,000%.
Yeah.
It's a lot of percent that is impossible to obtain, but we do it.
Somehow
we do it. Which, you know, we couldn't do if we were out partying every night.
Sure.
So we leave the party on the stage and that's it.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to cover is the two of you as vocalists not partying. What are you doing to make sure that your voice is in top shape for these tours?
Going to bed.
Yes.
Like literally, we love to just.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's energetically, it's, you know, almost, I don't know if it's because we're of a certain age.
Yeah.
But it's almost impossible. Like when we get off the stage, like Nathan and I both, like, we have about an hour before we're just crushed. Like,
it's done.
We can, we spend time with our fans and then it's like food and bedtime. Like we are very much like, and that's okay. Like that allows us to stay mentally well and mentally healthy because, you know, a lot of our fans are very, because Nathan and I are very open about our journeys as people, you know, with our mental well-being or just you coming out and me and the kids, like, we get a lot of energy back from our fans, and that is also something that needs protected. So like we go to bed and I am not ashamed of that.
And it's the advice that I give people all the time when they're like, what do you do for your voice? I shut the fuck up and go to bed. I drink a lot of water. I don't go out and party afterwards. Like I don't stay in loud rooms where I have to talk over people.
I hate that.
And it works, you know what I mean? You just, it totally works. You do what you are there to do, and then you go the fuck to bed.
Yeah. Are both of you good sleepers?
No.
I am. It's not. It's like 15, you'll sleep for like 15 minutes and then you're up for like 2 hours.
Intervals.
Then you go out and then it's like flipping and flopping and But I take like a ZQL or melatonin or something like that to make sure that I get rest. But Nathan is a fucking terrible sleeper.
Yeah.
But she tried.
Well, so I sleep really well if I have a bunk in the bus and
different.
The bus is moving.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, that is.
But in a
sauce.
still quiet room, oh my God, get the fuck out of here. I can't.
Oh, you've been conditioned to that for years.
Yeah.
Now you can't sleep when it's not moving, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
I need things moving and a little bit of noise in order to really fall into that sleep, that REM sleep.
And then for warming up before the set, what do you both do?
We're
absolutely
so bad
fucking nothing.
Oh my God, so bad.
Oh, no, this is funny because we just got back from a European tour, and we our support band was a band called Shoreline, who are just incredible.
Oh, they're so good.
Musicians, incredible people. They've got great energy, and they were warming up before their set every night. And I kept looking at Nathan like, we suck. Why aren't we doing that? Why are we not doing
Mommy
that?
made me mash my M&Ms.
Yes, and we're just like, in here doing our makeup.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be doing it while you're doing your makeup. Come on.
Yes. And we should be. And Pedro, our one guitarist, tried to make us do it, and it just didn't work. I have never done warm-ups in my life, and I have never found... And I don't want to steer anyone in the wrong direction.
Sure.
But I'm about to. They don't work for me. I don't like them.
Okay.
It's like singing before singing.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work for me.
You're
like
also so full of nervous energy. I can't imagine you trying to like sit and focus on something.
Yeah, no. I have to pace.
Yeah.
I have to pace and shake and be nervous. How am I going to sing? I got to shake. I got to be nervous. I got to pace around and look at people. I don't know what I'm going to do.
All right.
Help me.
It's interesting to hear you named you named a bunch of the new bands, but it kind of seemed like from the outside, like you guys are sort of unconnected to the ska scene. Like you have a fair amount of ska, but you're like kind of over here. You're playing this music, and like a lot of the ska bands are pretty well connected with each other.
Yeah. We're new.
Yeah.
We're also very new.
We're new, and also I think, we sort of describe ourselves more as a punk band, just because of all the influences that we have. It's just that we have a heavy dose of ska and reggae in there.
Yeah.
And so not self-defining as a ska band probably does that. But like she said, we're new. So and we are connecting with some of these bands. But we're just not rolling in that scene right now,
Yeah. And I mean, we just dropped our album in October. So I think people are starting to now like,
we're too weird and everywhere. I think that there's no scene that really has adopted us, We're just like, we're so all over the fucking place. Like, well, are you this? I guess. I don't know. So
how many shows are y'all into being like this version of the Iron Roses?
I mean, shows are, well, I don't know, because last year we played like 62 shows last year.
Yeah, but that was playing off that old album.
Yeah, since the new album.
Well, we had the Fest tour and our Euro tour. Because the new album came out the week before Fest.
Yeah.
2024 is going to be a big year for us. Like this from October through the end of this year was like a big launching of who we are and what we do.
But we're not.
And so we haven't really had, I'm getting foot cramp. Oh my God. Hi, I'm old. So that was our launching off period, and it seemed to work very well. Yeah. So like, we're getting all these offers for 2024, and I don't know. We're going to see what happens.
Yeah. I forget that it's only been, it's only been 2 months since our album's come out. Not even 2 months.
So really, as this incarnation, we're babies.
Yeah.
We're little babies.
In Defense of Ska will return in a moment.
Hey, welcome to Kyle Meredith with Consequence. This is where we check out some of the cool new things happening in the Consequence Podcast Network. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today, I get to talk with Adam Unz to discuss the latest season of The Opus.
Hi.
Well, first off, Adam, congratulations on the new season.
Thanks, Kyle.
So, which album is in the spotlight this season?
As always, it's presented by the Consequence Podcast Network and Sony Legacy Recordings. It's a music history series, and it's coming back to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Alice in Chains' sophomore album, Dirt.
What a classic album. I completely remember hearing it, those first few listens back when it came out, 92. I probably picked it up in 93 and 94. It was just dark and heavy and so melodically beautiful at the same time.
I know. Dirt was truly a genre-bending collection that defined an era. So we're going to help our listeners to explore the context of what was happening back then and also hear how it still inspires artists and fans today.
Sounds great. And you can listen to it at consequence.net or, of course, wherever you get podcasts. It's great talking with you, Adam. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Kyle.
There was a Facebook post you did recently. It was while you were on the European tour, and you said that how what a great time you were having, kind of letting people know who you were, and more importantly, who you were not. What did you mean by that?
We've had to do a lot of work to break people out of the mindset that we are a Boysetsfire junior band, which we are definitely not, or B, a band that is fronted by it's like the Nathan Gray show, and it's definitely not that either. So being
or a side project.
Yeah, that also. So especially, in that European tour, because those are fans that we've worked really hard in building the past couple of years, but a lot of those fans have been with Nathan themselves for a long time. So that tour that we just did in Europe was very much about this is what the Iron Roses is. This is what you can expect. And so it was fun to see that received so well. But for me personally, it was a lot of this is what we're not. We're not Nathan Gray and the Iron Roses. We're not, Nathan fronted band. It's this is a group of 6 individuals who are super strong and good at what they do. And we co-front that project. So that's
and it's like a double
whammy.
Yes. Where it's sort of showing who we are and at the same time showing who I am without it just being all about me. With my coming out and all of that, it's a sort of a balancing act of making sure that we do everything, because I've had a good amount of really great responses, but really weird responses as well from old quote unquote fans on the direction I'm going and who I really am. So sort of doing all that, and I'm not this hardcore singer with a beard, and that really blows people away sometimes, and I don't get it. Yes, I shave my beard. Yeah, I don't. That
what do you want to say about
that
it?
through you? I don't know. All right.
Yeah, I was less taken by the fact that you came out as non-binary. I was more taken by the fact that you were playing ska.
Yeah, that's the real.
I was just whoa,
this is the important stuff.
Because also, when I first saw the band, I didn't realize you were ex-Boysetsfire. I just saw this band that I didn't know who were people who were around my age playing ska. And I was just what the fuck? And it was good. And that it was just blowing my mind. I was like, who the fuck is this?
Right. And that is the true weirdness of this whole thing. Yes.
Absolutely.
And it's funny too, because I can even look back on just to show in my history where it tried to pop through. If you go to Boysetsfire's album, Notes from the Plague Years, there's a song called Deja Coup that I wrote and is incredibly ska driven. It even has horns on it.
Yeah.
Damn. And that was my one moment to shine out some of the stuff that I wanted to do, because that album in particular was a pretty weird one where we just went, fuck it. If it sounds good, we'll do it. And that was my moment to go, ooh, this is my chance.
How did the rest of the band feel about you trying to sneak in some ska?
They loved that. So we played that song all the way up to the end.
Nice.
So that one worked. Now, if I would have added any more to it, it would have been a no-go. You get one. It was a real good one too. We're going to keep playing it, but that's it. And it's funny because it is really like a fan favorite over in Europe. Like when we play it, it gets everybody bouncing, and so it's funny that I can look back to 2006.
Yeah,
that album came out. to where I tried to sneak it in and I won for 1 minute.
You got
I got ska, and now I get to do it all the fucking time.
I also like the approach of ska without horns.
Yeah.
So we had some in the studio, but like we knew full well, like there's zero chance that we're gonna be able to, because we knew we were gonna just like hit the ground running, because we recorded the album, Jesus Christ, in February of this year.
Good Lord.
Wow.
And we at that point knew, like, once it came out, like we were running, and we didn't know people who, you know, played horns, like that could tour and stuff. And so it was like, I always say that we're sort of ska scented.
Yeah.
The way we're reggae scented.
Yeah.
And so there's some on the album, but not in the live show.
Yeah, the only place you'll really hear them stick out, Raising Hell, Raising Hope, there's definitely a little horn line in there that's actually very reminiscent of English Beat. I love it. But in most of the places where you would hear horns on that album, we turned them down a bit just so they're more atmospheric than anything else, because we knew we couldn't do it live.
Yeah. There's keys too.
Oh definitely. Same thing.
Yeah.
And we do use some tracks here and there live to have that sound in there, but nothing out front, you know?
Gotcha.
Can you imagine whole horn section and keys and two front people.
Yeah, there's already 6 of us and 2 front people. We can't.
That would be the most expensive band ever.
Yeah.
I like you post these videos on Facebook and social media, the two of you, and you're both so very excited about this record, about this band, about touring. It seems like such a genuine thing, like not from musicians that have been doing this for a long time, but almost like people brand new to music.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny when you like find what you've been wanting to do for so long. When you finally get to do it, when you finally get to be yourself and just do exactly 100% what you want to do. Because, I've obviously been in bands before, and there's that diplomatic, everybody sort of loses a little type of situation, where you don't get to fully do what you want. And with this band, I finally found people who want to do exactly what I want to do, and it's the same for everybody else in this band, where they're just like, it's just a very joyful situation where we get to go, wait, you want to do that too? Fuck yeah, let's do that.
It is so fun.
Yeah.
It's been so fun.
Yeah.
Can you speak on that, the joy of the music and the purpose of the joy? Because you are a band that still has a message and still is saying something, but you're doing it through joy, or joy is just the sort of the feeling of it.
Yeah, we've been talking about it on stage a couple of times, and we get to one song towards the end, and Becky takes the mic, and I think she puts it best.
I always, so we are speaking to very heavy themes, right? And that's something that is important to all 6 of us. And doing it in a way that maintains that joyful feel, even, in the bounce of the song, or even in the live show where we're just having the time of our lives. That is such a middle finger to all of the people and ideals and systems that we're speaking out against, because it's telling you, like, we see the things that you're doing. We see how hard you're working to make us miserable, but we're not going to let you take that joy away from us. And when we, are in that space in our live shows, it becomes a joyful protest, because we're gathered with our fans and our friends, and we're dancing and we're having the times of our lives. And we're still saying no to all of these things. And I think that is one of my favorite parts about what we do, is that speaking to the same things that maybe a lot of other bands are doing, but we're holding on to that joy in a space that invites everybody in, to feel included in that.
It almost has a Swing Kids feel.
Oh my God, I fucking love that movie. Sorry.
Yeah, finding the joy and the passion and the happiness inside the filth.
Yeah.
I watched that movie a lot because
Me too. Me
religiously.
too.
it was one of the only movies that like where my mom and my interest overlap because she's very into history
Yeah.
and usually watches like incredibly boring stuff. But
Right.
we both like that movie. So
It's wonderful.
So good.
Yeah.
it's fascinating because you sort of spoke on the sort of the what you perceive to be shallow joy from ska bands in the 90s. So
Mhm.
you're talking about a different kind of joy. You're talking about
Oh, without a doubt. It's
Yeah.
purposeful. It's not just that like, woo, get drunk, party type of feel. It's more we are celebrating despite the world.
Mhm.
Sure.
And the purpose because it's also energizing. So for that, we can get together and we can say, this is what we believe. This is what we hope for. Let's celebrate. Let's get energized. Let's rest up. And then let's go out and actually do something about it. It's not about escapism.
Yeah.
Which I think is an important thing to add to this. I think that a lot of times when you get into that party atmosphere, it's about escapism.
Yeah.
And that's not something we're promoting at all.
No.
Could you define a little bit, what you stand for or what your message is?
Yeah. So it is very important for us to stand up against all of what we see. So there is a big lashing back, I believe, from the 90s. I think the 90s, we saw a lot of progress happening.
Mhm. Yeah.
And now you see a lot of backlash where you're seeing these old racist tropes. You're seeing these homophobic, transphobic, sexist tropes coming back, fighting back against that progress. And so we are seeing that very well. We're seeing the rise of fascism, not just in our country, but all over the world right now, where people are using fear and anger and hurt to rise up fascist goals.
Yeah.
And so we are standing up against those things. You see bills and laws being passed against trans kids and adults. You see it's almost a common event now to see another Black person being murdered by the police over and over and over again on the news until it's not even news anymore. It's just something that happens. And rape.
Yep.
Culture that happens not only in the outside culture, but in our own culture. We're just seeing these women coming out about Anti-Flag and bands that are in our own fucking backyard, bands that we propped up who did irreparable damage to women in this scene.
Yeah.
So these are things that we have decided, we're not going to shut up about.
Correct.
And we couldn't give a flying fuck about our careers or anything like that. We're just here to celebrate with those who have not been celebrated.
That's a great way to put it.
I feel like because we're in the same age group, and I feel like our age group is unique in a sense that when we were growing up in the 90s, we kind of rolled our eyes at our parents. We felt like we had progressed society a bit than it had been in the past. It wasn't perfect.
No.
And it sort of felt like that was the direction things were just going to keep going. And now we're adults and we're seeing that that's not necessarily the direction things go.
There was so much built in, like I was saying, and like you just spoke to, there was so much in the 90s that just looked like, here we go. Okay, here we go. And it just went, nope. Like somewhere along the way, like I said, I think it's the natural backlash of, and you see it through history, as progress tries to move forward, you have those old, awful men usually who go, oh no, this is taking our power away, and they find new creative ways to usurp that progress.
I think this is relevant. Could you talk a little bit about the song Guardrail, Old Guard? I mean, and also I want to mention the video too, because I feel like the video captures the vibe you're talking about, where it's just everybody all together, the band's all together, the audience is all together. There really isn't anyone propped up from anyone else in that video visually.
That was very important to us,
Yeah.
to make that blending of audience and band, and to where you can't really tell who's who and what's going on. It just, we're all there together to celebrate. And we try to make our live shows as much that as we possibly can. But Old Guard was basically, it can be encapsulated by the youth are going to change the world if we allow them to live long enough. You know? And that's sort of our job right now as older folks, is to fight for those who are going to change the world tomorrow. And especially, as I said before, and we'll say over and over again, one of the groups of kids that we are fighting hard for are trans youth. The situation looks fairly hopeless right now, you know, in a lot of ways, with bills being passed and laws being passed, and trans kids being put in the center and scapegoated for all kinds of awful shit. So the best we can do at this moment is to fight for them and to try to keep them alive long enough to where they can take charge and do something.
We, playing that song on this last tour was pretty incredible, because there were, I think, 3 or 4 nights where people had brought their young ones to our shows, and like I went to pieces every time we sang that song. Like I would get down, like, because they're usually in the front row, like get down to their level, and like, I'm singing that song to you. This song is for you. And, you know, they're singing it right back. And it's like, this is like just the perfect culmination of everything that we worked for with this song. Like, this song is literally for you. I've got you. I'm going to protect you. Like, you have all of the power to change the world. Like, let's just let's just do this together.
And giving people like that a safe place to be. We had people come out. There was a trans boy that came out, and giving people a place where they can go, especially younger people, where they can go and be celebrated is so important for them to feel safe and to feel protected, so that they can then go, hey, I can do this. I don't have to hide. I don't have to feel scared. I can get out there and join this fight.
I read one interview that you did where you talked about the value of you being an older non-binary person for the sake of the younger people, because then they have a chance to see themselves as they get age, and not just like that they won't age.
Yeah. And I think it's important, especially, I think now, oh God, we've been through so many generations now in my lifetime, that now you have, like, the younger generations are now able to look at millennials who are now into their 30s. And that's sort of cool for them to be able to see like queer millennials and stuff like that. But I feel like millennials actually sort of missed out in a lot of ways, because Gen Z or Gen X, which I'm part of, a lot of us were killed off, you know, and that's not an exaggeration. I think that there are not a lot of older or Gen X queers. Between the AIDS epidemic and just being literally murdered in the streets, not a lot of us got a chance to grow up and get older. So it's a weird place to be, you know, and to feel like you have that mission to show people that it's possible, that you can grow up, you can be older, you can live a life that's joyful and fun as yourself. Is it's life-changing.
We'll be right back after this.
So I want to go back to Rebel Songs, the record you did in 2022. and when it was Nathan Gray and the Iron Roses. Can you kind of walk us through how we got from Nathan Gray and the Iron Roses playing Rebel songs to not even a full year, or no, a little more than a year later, getting to the Iron Roses, and with a band that has a different sound altogether?
Yeah, we
Different
we always sort of joke about it being that Charlie from Always Sunny, that like picture of him like with all the pictures strung together, the meme. Trying to solve a murder scene. That's sort
The
of
conspiracy theory thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
exactly. Yeah. And so I did a few albums solo before
Mhm.
Rebel Songs, but through those, Becky did backups on all those albums. So it was coming up through that when we finally got to Rebel Songs, and it was me, my friend Gene, and Jed who wrote that album. Becky came in and was singing a few more vocals in there, and I had met Phil, our one guitarist, because I had some hip hop influences on that album that I wanted to explore, and he was a real life hip hop artist. So I was like, well, I need somebody that knows what they're doing, because I didn't want to sound like an asshole, So I was like, please come in and help me here, Yes. So it was at that moment, honestly, me, Becky, and Phil sitting at a table at Brian's house where it went, oh, here we go. Here we go. It's like, we need to make this something bigger than this. Because what I was doing, I was incorporating these sounds and stuff, but the way I write songs sometimes and the way it came out and the strumming patterns and stuff, it came out a little Americana. Like it was like sort of Bruce Springsteen-ish with some weird reggae and hip hop shit thrown in, And so it was like, how do I make this bigger? How do I make this different? Well, I bring in different perspectives and I make it less about me and more about us. And so Becky and Phil and I began that mission right there before Rebel Songs was even released, that we were going to find the other pieces to this puzzle and we were going to see what needed to happen. So we started to do that, and we ran into all kinds of weirdness, like where, people that just didn't fit, whether it was musically or it was ideologically, or it was like weird out of nowhere ideologically. Like, really? Oh, fuck, get out of here. But
not liking ska. Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
How dare you?
Same person had a problem with drag shows, so they were obviously out.
Yeah.
God, they don't like fun at all.
I know, right? That's what you don't like fun or drag. You are dead inside. Right. Do you just eat cement for breakfast? So they obviously have a live, laugh, love sign at home. Anyway. So the color beige comes to mind.
All right,
I'm sorry. Okay. But so as we move forward, we just started collecting people. It was funny enough, Michael, who plays bass for us, had played bass as my touring musician bass player all through my solo stuff, but he was never really part of the band. He just would go out on the road. But as we started working through the music, it was like, oh shit, no, he fits really weirdly. Let's keep him. His bass lines are just, they don't sound like they should fit at all, but for some reason they do. And it's perfect. And then the last pieces of the puzzle were a strong rhythm guitarist, because we struggled with that until we finally put Phil on lead, because that's his jam. That's where he shines, those weird, leady parts. But we then found Pedro, who is probably one of the most steady and amazing rhythm guitarists I've ever heard. And he was playing for Ann Beretta, and we opened for Ann Beretta as a acoustic act. And in that, we met Pedro, and Becky and I started a long-term
How did we get him?
plotting for our own, and it worked.
Yeah.
And then, as most bands do, it's the drummer that comes last.
They're always in 27 bands.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of them, and they're always in 27 different bands, and you have to really work to find the right one. And we had our friend David that played drums on the album, but he couldn't tour. So finally, we, through a weird connection, so this guy Jake used to play.
Listen, we tried to tell you that this was like,
it's so convoluted.
So I apologize. For all.
No, I've been wondering about this. So I'm all in. Let's go.
Our friend Jake, who played in Nathan Gray Collective, played in like my solo stuff. Was it Rick from
Good Fight Records.
Good Fight Records hooked us up with Jake, who then hooked us up with Steve, who is a long-haired version of Jake.
Yeah.
In my mind.
He's just a Jersey hardcore drummer kid.
Dude.
But he fits fucking perfectly.
It's so fun.
None of us make sense together, but we do.
Yeah, if you put us all together and found the weird, like, inspirations we each have, none of them should have fit.
Breakfast Club if it was a band.
Yes, that's what we are. And so, and I'll be honest with you, so we were writing through all these member change-ups.
Yeah.
It was not until we were in that studio that we started clicking.
Yeah.
Like with these songs, like that was a miracle, that album, because we were sitting there, like that could have flopped terribly. Like we got in the room, not really, we had the songs sort of, but we didn't know really what place each of us had in the songs.
Yeah, it definitely took Nathan taking a step back to get to a place where they could let go of the control a little bit, in that shift from solo artist to band. And that allowed everybody else to like recognize their own place and power. And that is when everybody's 6 very different like backgrounds and styles kind of came together and created what you hear on that album.
Exactly.
So it was fucking magic. And it was very organic in that sense where it was like, okay, if you just took a step back and everybody else took a step forward, so everybody's in the same playing field, and that is what happened. Yeah,
that's literally what happened. And we wrote that album for real in that studio in that 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, solid. Yeah. We were every day for 2 or 3
and
weeks.
Basically took each song and just revamped them right there in the studio.
So who of the 6 is the biggest ska fan?
Natasha.
That's me.
Yeah,
easily.
See, that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah. Yep. That's me. I think second up would be Pedro.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it ends as far as like it's so funny because I feel like it's funny because Michael is an excellent ska and reggae bass player. It's not his style. Like he's like a nu metal kid.
Yeah.
Like and like tech metal.
Yeah.
Like stuff. But when you hear him play to ska and reggae stuff, it's like that's his first love, And it's perfect. Like he knows exactly how he is to play on those songs.
He's such a good
he's got such a good groove to it. Yeah,
how dancey it is.
Oh, it's so good.
How do you two feel about nu metal?
I'm not a fan. I like my metal old. I don't like it. I don't like it NU.
Yeah, Michael and I can connect on some weird music, but I think like everybody in our band has some like weird.
It's also like it's like his favorite band is Mudvayne. Like it's
not
not even like a cool nu metal band.
But
it's not even like a cool nu metal band. It's
but
like,
as a bass, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I almost feel like that's better though.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like it's weirder. But yeah, that style has never been my thing. I think as nu metal as I get is when Sepultura did Roots and went a little nu metal-y. Like that's as nu metal-y as I get.
Good Lord, you're 51.
It's true. I'm so old.
So you're not down with the nookie then?
No. I cringe thinking about it. My God. It's just not my thing. Like, it's cool if other people love it. And I've seen a resurgence of it with like people loving that stuff and like Limp Bizkit and stuff. But I can't do it. It's too corny to me. I can't.
Yeah. I feel like it's concurrent with people like realizing like, oh, I actually like ska.
Yeah.
And I feel like people saw that and then they were like, well, then I still like nu metal.
Right. Right. Oh yeah. Well, I like this. Yeah. Yes. That's a good point, because I mean, ska can be sort of corny and silly too, you know?
Sure.
And it's got that sort of feel to it, which is, it's both a positive and a negative depending on how you play it, you know? Because as I'm thinking about it, those old, like if you go back to like the beginning Korn albums, those were some intense fucking albums.
Remember the other day I was singing Korn and you were so mad at me.
Well, yeah, because you did a it's fucking dumb. But like, so like, I can't do Limp Bizkit and a lot of that stuff. But that first Korn album, I mean, that was talking about some really deep and dark shit. And with Ross Robinson, like making him cry in a corner while he's playing the song. Like, so that's, I mean, I can get down with that. Like,
you can get down with very dark shit.
I can get down with some dark shit, but
I'm curious about the two of you. You've worked together 5 years or so, or how did that all come together?
When was Feral Hymns? 2000.
6 years ago, 5 years ago, 6.
So, yeah.
Nathan and I have been friends for a little over 10 years now.
Yeah.
And when Nathan was writing their first solo album, they were working on a song, and Nathan has like an iPhone. So on their iPhone, there's like probably 763 voice memos of like bits of songs, and they were working on something. And I was like, I heard a harmony to something that they were writing. And so like, I just kind of created a new voice file and sent it back. And then like a couple months later, when Nathan was about to go in the studio to record that album with Pete from Bouncing Souls, Nathan was just like, oh, by the way, when I go to the studio, I need you to be there. And I was like, what? So I just kind of got jumped in that way, I guess. And it's just evolved. And so for me, this album has been super special because it's the first time where I'm not like in the background. And so it's been like a whole journey of me learning how to take up space, or learning to let myself take up space. And it's just been, it's been fun to watch the progression over the last 6 years, or however many years it's been, to be, partner with you in that role now, as opposed to somebody at the background in a dress like with a fucking, what do you call that thing? Tambourine.
Well, it became obvious that she was going to be part of the band when it was the first time we played Fest was actually 3 fests ago. And it was just an acoustic act of like me, Phil, and Michael and you, but you came in to it a few shows in.
Yeah, because that was that Ben Turner tour.
And that was when it really locked in, because we hadn't played all together live.
Yeah.
And then when we did, there was no turning back.
Yeah.
Because it was like, well, you know that, because then we played some tours, and then remember that time you got sick and couldn't play in Richmond, and we were all like, well, that was a fucking stupid show. That didn't work at all. Like, we didn't have all our members. Like, it was so weird. Like, it was just like, well, I guess that's how you know who's going to stay.
Yeah.
If you can't play a show and it ruins the fucking show. Like,
In Defense of Ska will return in a moment.
So Nathan, you have said in interviews before that you had tried to come out several times over the years.
Mhm.
Can you speak a little bit to why you were able to come out now, and if there was anything unique about this particular moment for you?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of unique things that finally met up. And I think that there were so many moments growing up that I didn't know what to call this, you know, like non-binary and pansexual and things of that nature in this like crazy in-between world. um, didn't I'm not saying it didn't exist. I know it existed, but not to me, not to my weird little Christian culty upbringing.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of that. You were either gay or straight, and so trying to weave in and out of
also
those
don't be
things.
gay.
Yeah, and also don't be gay, but there are only those two things. Yeah. And so and fuck being a woman or a they or a them, that was just, what are you even talking about? Like, that's not a thing. Like, so going through that upbringing and being very sheltered up until I was like 19. And then getting out in the world and playing in bands and like, even in Boysetsfire, like, the hardcore scene, not as open as everybody would like to think or be nostalgic about. There were times that I sort of came out here and there, but I was sort of confused about what it meant. Am I gay? Am I bi? Am I this? Am I that? I don't fucking know. So there was a lot of moments of going in and out of the closet. And a lot of that dealing with shame and frustration with myself and not understanding. Also, there was a lot of trauma from sexual abuse that had happened in my past in the church I was in that I was not ready to face up to yet. So there was a lot of anger and there was a lot of almost this put on masculinity that I was working with because of that. And so 5 or 6 years ago, when I put out Feral Hymns as a solo album, was the first time I really spoke to that publicly. And I started getting help for that trauma. And as that trauma dissipated, new things came out. It was like once that got out of the way, it was like, oh, a lot of this makes a lot more sense now. Now that I'm not angry, now that I'm not putting forth this, like, trying to figure out which kind of masculine stereotype I'm going to be, who am I? And it presented itself very clearly to me. And then to have a very, very obvious divide from friends and family, to where there was a definite group of people that were not stoked and not going to support me, and blamed me and made me feel miserable about it. Then there was this very small group of Iron Roses that made me feel so perfectly right where I was, and just loved on me like no other. From stage, I've said it a couple of times, when many others walked away, the people I'm associating with now are the ones that ran towards me. And so, I mean, that's really the story. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but like, it's really the story of finding myself outside of that trauma, realizing, okay, this is what this is called. And this is what this is. And this is what this feeling is. And it doesn't even have to stop there. You may progress even more from there. You don't know. But you're on your journey now, finally. And you're at peace with that journey. And everyone that you're with, no matter how that changes, are going to walk right along with you as you change and as you become more you. And so that's what makes it beautiful and wonderful now, is that I just get to be and have that support and love as I go forward.
Can you talk about the first time you got on stage with Boysetsfire after having come out?
Yeah. Well, weird. So one of the to just backtrack and then I'll get back to that. One of the weird moments that I like to bring up because I want people to hear it and know how words and actions can have consequences in life. I remember there was a song by Boysetsfire that I reclaimed on Feral Hymns called Across 5 Years. That song was about an ex-boyfriend who I was unable to give fully to because I was terrified of being who I was. And we played that song many times, and someone came up to us at a show, a Boysetsfire show a long, long time ago, and asked me what the song was about. And I had decided I was going to trust our fans and just be like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to tell them what it's about. And I told them what it was about, and they looked at me and went, well, that ruins it for me, and just walked away.
Wow.
And I just fell to fucking pieces. And I was like, well, never again. I'm not that person. Fuck that. So flash forward now, once I came out and we still had some Boysetsfire shows to do. And we're going to do a 30-year anniversary thing in October in Europe, which will be my last with that band. It's weird. It's there's a lot of feelings and weirdness and history there that I don't know if I'm fully comfortable talking about, but there are definitely people within the band that I feel very comfortable with and others I don't. And I hope that maybe coming to an end after these 30 years, we'll be able to rebuild a friendship down the road in that regard. Because I do love them as friends and as family. And I think that a lot of things have gotten in the way of us progressing with that band. And it's not just about me and those changes, but out of that, the fan base, there's obviously some cult followers that have come over to the Iron Roses who are always there to support and love. There are a lot of folks that Boysetsfire, I think, like Josh and I from Boysetsfire were talking about how a lot of people came in during the wind-up years, which was, sort of going like a Sony conglomerate thing, that we were on the same label as Creed, basically, and so a lot of people came in that are the same people that are like, when did Rage Against the Machine get so political? You know what I mean? Those type of things. So I have gotten a lot of shit from those kind of people. Like when they find out that I'm doing this and I'm who I am, they come over and I get trolled and fucked with and shitty fucking messages that are just ugly and gross. From people who have obviously never listened to our lyrics, but it's not just them. It's also fans that like just little things that they don't understand. Like, oh, I loved your beard. Why don't you have your beard? You see the full face fucking makeup and you see I've seen you on my Instagram.
Doesn't match my eyeliner.
You fucking know. Yeah. You fucking know the journey I've been going through and how weird that is to fucking come up and say, I like the old you better than who you are. You know, that says a lot. And so I've struggled a lot with that. More so with the fan base than anything else within. I think that anything within the band are things that just, you're in a band for 30 fucking years, you need to take a goddamn break, and just move on and just be friends, But but it's that fan base that there's definitely has been a struggle, not feeling like I can go onto those stages and not and feel comfortable being who I am.
I see. I mean, it's interesting. You would think that being in a political punk band wouldn't have those issues, but the reality is, yeah, they do.
Think, and this is what women and queer people and people of color have been telling the hardcore scene and the punk scene for fucking decades.
Yeah.
It's not what you think it is. It is a subculture, and it's at its best mildly better than the prevailing culture out there. At its worst, it's just as bad, just in a different way, so it's difficult, and I both look forward to and I worry about October, and when we do those things, like how that plays out. But like with anything else, you get out there and you do it, and you are who you are, and you don't let anybody stop you.
All right, so I want to talk about Pantera. I almost said Panera, but Pantera.
We can talk about Panera too. I want to try that lemonade with all the caffeine in it.
Pantera.
It just tastes like lemonade.
Yeah. Hey, people have died from that lemonade. Okay, good.
Pantera, let's go.
Pantera lemonade. Let's do it.
So, okay. Can you go back the story? There was one or a couple festivals maybe that you were on the same bill as Pantera, and you started to complain about that, and it kind of set some things in motion.
Yeah, so it's funny because so Boysetsfire was going to play some festivals that Pantera was also involved in, and I started speaking out about it because I saw that going on, and then I saw other people speaking out about it. I was like, yeah, this is fucked up. This is stupid. This number one, it's fucking Pantera karaoke. It's just Phil. Like, and he sucks. So what the fuck are they even doing this for? But I felt the need to speak up because I feel like there's a misunderstanding of that. It was just this one time that he said white power and did the Sieg Heil at a show, and he apologized and moved on. There are literally albums where he says the N-word in them. Like, I'm not fucking kidding. Like, you can hear it. It's recorded. He's not, this is who he is. It wasn't a mistake. Like, and so, a Super Joint Ritual, it was, I'm not going to fucking, you could fucking find it if people want to find it. But, the dude sucks. He's a racist piece of shit. He fucking sucks. And so anyway, my point being is that I then connected with political groups in Germany that were fighting against having them on the stage. So my part of this and how I stand on all these types of things are, I feel that no one's going to give a shit if my band jumps off the festival. They're just going to replace us with another band. But if we stay and we stay loud, whether they get kicked off or not is irrelevant. We are doing what we're supposed to do. So I got in touch with the festival. I got in touch with the political groups that were fighting against it. I was like, I'm in, let's talk about this. Let's do this. And the first stage was the festival and other bands trying to distance themselves and trying to, well, okay, it's not that big of a deal. And then us being like, no, it's a big fucking deal and they need to go. And then, so my stance was, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to show up regardless. I will talk shit from stage to that motherfucker's face. I do not give a shit. If you want that drama at your festival, let's do it, And then on top of that, whatever money I get from those festivals, I will be donating that money to certain organizations. And so from there, a lot of different groups. I wouldn't say that my voice alone did anything. It just added to the commotion, and there were a lot of organizations out there that were fighting against this and people that were standing up. None of the other bands on the festival, mind you, but I was it. I was the one person in a band on that festival that stood up. But they finally caved and they said, okay, we'll kick them off. Cool. Done. And that was the story.
Hey, that's a good story.
Has anything else ever come of that from their camp?
No. What are they going to fucking
sure
do?
They're
Fuck 'em.
on other
They're
on other festivals somewhere.
I'm sure they're doing fine. He's going to tour around, make his fucking money and whatever,
I will say, the amount of disgusting comments and DMs and shit like that we got on our band page and our personal pages just because we were standing up against that was vile. Some of the things that these Pantera fans were saying to us was just I remember
my favorite was you're not helping their cause right now, right? With the shit you're saying.
Yeah. There were a couple of days where I'm I have to just delete and not look because the stuff that they were saying was so vile. I'm do you have moms? What in the
How dare you call me racist? Says racist.
And then go on and prove the point.
And say just calling for you to your dad. Literally, it was a thing, and then it wasn't.
And then all of a sudden they moved on to the next thing. It was just, and that's how it works with these fucking people. They find the thing to be outraged about, and they come and tell you they're going to kill you. And
they comment on all your YouTube videos. This is not as good as Pantera. Okay, buddy.
All right, and then they fucking move on to the next fucking
fuck off.
thing that Fox News tells them to be fucking angry about. Fuck them all. It's just whatever. All right, see you at the next show you're not going to come to. All right, here you go. Oh no.
I think one of the things, I don't know if this was quite stated, is that you're talking about this online. This is a Boysetsfire show, but you're talking about it on the Iron Roses social media, right?
Everywhere.
Correct.
We my band, all of our bandmates are, we said, we all have similar values, so we're not going to let we're not going to not say something.
When one of us speaks up, everybody jumps in.
Yeah. Especially when it gets to a point where people are attacking one of ours.
Yeah.
You're going to be out of your fucking mind if you think that I'm going to just not say something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a wonderful thing and a eye-opening thing. To say something, I'm going to say this carefully. To speak up and have this band defend me. And that has been a common thread of me saying who I am and what I believe and what I stand for, and this band jumping to have my back publicly. And that's where I'm going to stop what I'm saying. Thank you.
I want to talk about Frank Turner also, because you mentioned it earlier, sort of in the run up to this band, or sort of the evolution of this band. That was sort of a pinnacle moment, wasn't it, when you opened for Frank Turner?
Yeah, I mean, that was
crazy.
It was insane. Yeah,
the person who was supposed to open on that tour, it was right as COVID was kind of starting to die down and people were starting to tour again. The person that was supposed to be on that tour got pulled off of it, and
because he refused to get vaccinated.
I wasn't going to say it, but yes. That's why.
No, say
it.
Yeah.
And so Frank's team reached out to us, and it was like, hey, can you do a 3.5 week tour in
Last
2
minute.
weeks?
Yeah.
And we're like, Yeah, we'll figure that out. But like that, like it was really.
And this is when it was still getting billed as like Nathan Gray.
Yeah, it was, and it was like, okay, well, you can do an acoustic set because like it's an acoustic tour, and that was like, you know, I couldn't get all the time off work, so I jumped in like halfway through, and that was really like with Michael who plays bass and Phil plays guitar and Nathan and myself, like that core like 4 from the beginning. That's where that all gelled, and it was like. It was a pretty cool moment for us to figure out where we were going as a band, but also like Frank's fans are incredible and devoted and just the kindest humans. And we've collected some really amazing people from that experience.
Which, to speak to that, the reason why Frank Turner has such amazing fans is because he himself is an amazing human being. Yeah. And I want to speak to that a little bit because I always try to. Like his team did not want 4 people on stage. It was supposed to just be me and one other person. And Frank was like, no, they're going to do whatever they want to. He's one of the only bands as a headliner that doesn't make you price match them in merch. Yeah. He's very ethical. He's just, I love that guy.
He's a fucking professional.
He is a wonderful, wonderful sweetheart of a human being. And I think that I always make it like a point to say that, because I think when you have such devoted fans that sometimes like fans that are so devoted, they get disappointed a lot because the people that you're dedicating so much time to end up being scumbags. And I think it's sort of nice when you're that dedicated of a fan to sometimes hear that you were right.
Yeah.
He is
that, actually
he's actually exactly what you think he is. He's absolute, just beautiful human being. Yeah. Like, perfect.
Now, he was on a track that you did in a few years before that, right? 2020, I believe. The song Say Anything.
Yep. We've been friends for a very long time. And it's funny because he was telling the story from stage, how he bugged a promoter, his old band bugged a promoter day in and day out to get onto a Boysetsfire show in the UK. It must have been in 2000. No, I'm sorry. Whoa, 1997, not 2000. 1996, 1997. But like he was in this little unknown band that just browbeat this fucking poor promoter till he was like, fine, you can open. And then he interviewed me for his zine at the time. And it was funny him recounting that on stage and everything. But like we've known each other since then, and we've been friends since then. And every once in a while our paths cross, and it's always an interesting time.
Well, very cool. So I think that we are going to be airing this episode the beginning of January. So 2024, anything you want to say about what you have planned for 2024? Or?
Buckle up. We were just laughing because when we were on the flight back from Germany, we got to announce Punk Rock Bowling. And then it hit us that in the time that we were on tour in Europe, we announced like 4 festivals in that time. I think. It was like, okay, so we got a new booking agent right after Fest who has been working his absolute wonderful ass off for us. And I mean that in a way that sounds way better or worse than
less predatory and weird.
Yeah, right.
But
his gorgeous ass.
The first half of the year is already going to be absolutely bonkers for us, and I have a feeling that it's gonna just continue to be a big year for us. Like, releasing the album 2 months ago and doing a couple of big tours off of it, and just
we're gonna be playing more in Canada than I ever
know,
have in my life.
I know.
Yeah.
We haven't announced that yet.
Oh,
though.
Sorry.
So don't say the other thing.
No, we won't.
She's bad at this.
I'm bad at this.
It's going to be very busy, and I keep joking that I hope we're so busy. My job is like, hey, Do you just want to quit because you're never here?
And he tours with ska bands.
We can't say anything at all right at this time.
She's literally covering my mouth right now.
but perhaps. Why you want to? Anybody want to tour with us? We have a lot of announcements coming up.
Yes, we do.
Right. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Big things coming.
Yes. That Punk Rock Bowling that's out. I mean, there's a lot of ska on that fucking. Yeah,
that is like a
Madness is fucking playing that fucking thing. Yeah.
Doesn't get more ska than that.
Right?
Thank you for listening to In Defense of Ska. To support the show, sign up for our Patreon. Intro and outro music by Slow Gherkin from the EP Lives. Additional music by Dan P. and the Bricks. Please rate and review the podcast and tell a friend. Follow at In Defense of Ska on social media. The book In Defense of Ska by Aaron Carnes is available from Clash Books. Order it online. Chris Reeves of SPI is our editor. This is your co-host, Adam Davis of Omnigon, leading you by saying ska now more than ever.
All right, folks, and that's it for season 3 of In Defense of Ska. And we'll leave you by saying big things coming.
Can you believe we've done 3 full years of In Defense of Ska?
It's gone by so fast. It's insane.
It seems like just yesterday we were talking about Flat Planet.
It seems like just yesterday you were convincing me that the world needed another podcast. And you were right.
Yeah. Season 4, we're not going to give away anything, but we do actually have some pretty cool big things planned for season 4 that are totally different than the first 3 seasons.
We actually do. And they're already in the can. They're ready to go.
Yeah.
So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you turn up next week. And if you want more of our conversation with the Iron Roses, we, of course, have the Patreon. You can head over there. You can listen to all these episodes with no interruptions of advertisements and extra bonus content.
You're definitely going to want to be on that Patreon in season 4.
Oh, yeah.